Hello and welcome to a VectorTuts Quick Tip screencast. My name is Cheryl Graham and today I'm going to show you how to make this defocused lighting effect, also known by its Japanese name Bokeh. We had an excellent tutorial a couple of months ago by Ann Elster, which used scatter brushes to create the bokeh. I'm going to do it with symbols in this video, not necessarily a better way, just a different way. First we'll make the background, so draw out a large black rectangle. I'm in RGB mode, so all of those values are 0. Then I'm going to fill it with a gradient, and the keyboard shortcut for that is simply the period key. That fills it with the last gradient used, which in this case was a linear black to white. I'll change that to a radial gradient, and then use this dark orange for the center. Now I can use the gradient tool and the gradient annotator to resize the gradient, change its aspect ratio, and rotate it. What I'm going for is a swath of color from the lower left corner to the upper right. This next step is optional, but for more creative flexibility, I want to turn the gradient into a gradient mesh. Unfortunately, you can't simply go to the Object menu and tell Illustrator to create a gradient mesh. That won't maintain the diagonal gradient, as you can see. So first you have to rasterize the object. 72 dpi is fine for the rasterization. Then go back to Object, Create Gradient Mesh. A simple mesh is all you need. I'm just using 4 rows and 5 columns, and now you can take the Direct Selection tool and move individual points to give a more organic shape. I also want to have the orange extend all the way to the corners. So I'll grab the eyedropper tool, then hold down the Command key to temporarily access the Direct Selection tool, select the point whose color I want to change, then release the Command key and sample the orange point with the eyedropper. I'll do the same thing for the lower left corner. Hold down the Command key, select the point, then sample the color from another point. So there's the background for now. You can lock it or put it on a locked layer if you wish. And now we're going to make the lights. So take the Ellipse tool and draw a circle. I'm going to use the period key shortcut again to fill it with a gradient. This one goes from yellow to orange. Next, go to the Transparency panel and choose Hard Light as the blending mode. The gradient becomes a bit more distinct, as you can see. And now take the opacity down to about 80%. Now I'm just going to drag copy the circle to see how it interacts with the first one, and that looks fine. Now drag the transparent circle into the Symbols panel. Give it a name if you wish, and you can ignore everything else. A symbol has been added to the Symbols panel, and now you can delete these 2 circles. Now we're going to go over to the Symbols tools. There are 8 of them, so I'm going to tear off the tools so I have them handy. We'll use the symbol sprayer first. Double-click on it to bring up its options. Intensity refers to the number of symbols in a set, and density is how closely spaced they are. I'll set these relatively low for now, then just click and drag to spray out a bunch of the yellow circles. The bounding box indicates that these are all in the same set. I'll hold down the Command key and click off the set, then when I spray again, a new set is created. You can experiment with different settings in the options box, and keep spraying until you have several sets with a fair amount of symbols. This is what I have so far. If you view it in outline mode, you can see the symbol sets. In addition to being a faster way of working than placing individual circles, symbol sets make for a smaller file size as they link back to a single symbol rather than having all those individual paths in your file. Now I'm going to take the Symbol Screener tool, which changes the opacity of the symbol instances. I'll just click here and there for random opacities. The Symbol Sizer, as you might expect, increases the size of individual symbols. If you want to decrease the size, hold down the Option key. This is generally true for each tool. The Option or Alt key performs the opposite action. Now I'm going to grab the Symbol Shifter tool, which moves the symbols around, and the force with which it does so can be adjusted in the Options dialog. Keep spraying, adjusting, and randomizing till you get the look you want. Now I'll make another symbol, this time a red circle, and as before, change the blending mode to Hard Light and reduce the opacity. I'll make a copy to see how the transparency looks, and that looks fine to me, so I'll go ahead and drag it into the Symbols panel. Then, as before, spray, screen, size, and shift. I'll do one last symbol. This time I'll make it orange, and just to be different, I'll choose Overlay as the blending mode. Then I'll drag it into the Symbols panel, and you know the rest. So here's my illustration thus far, and it looks pretty good. But if you look at defocused lights closely in a photo, you'll notice they often have a lighter ring around them. So I'm going to make another yellow circle. Then as before, I'll use the period shortcut to fill it with a gradient. I'll change the blending mode and opacity like I did before. Now go to the Appearance panel and add a stroke by changing the stroke color to white. Right below the word stroke, you see the word opacity. Click on it to bring up the transparency panel. This will affect only the stroke, not the fill. So I'll choose Screen as the blending mode and take the opacity down to about 30%. Now, rather than making a new symbol and starting over with the symbol sprayer, I can replace this yellow symbol with the circle I just created. To do that, hold down the Option or Alt key and drag the circle on top of the symbol in the panel. You see a dark outline around the symbol, and when you let go, all those symbols are replaced with the new object. And when I zoom in, you can see the light white outline around the yellow circle. I'll do the same with the red and orange symbols, and you don't actually have to start from scratch. What you can do is drag out a single symbol to your artboard. Right-click on it and choose Break Link to Symbol. This puts it on its own sublayer in the Layers panel, and if you want, you can move it up to the top level, but that's not necessary. As I did before, I'll add a white stroke, then change the blending and opacity of the stroke alone. I'll hold down the Option or Alt key, then drag it onto the existing red symbol to replace all of the red symbols in the illustration. Then I'll do the same with the orange symbols. We're almost done. In addition to using the symbol tools on individual symbol instances, you can modify the symbol sets themselves, just as you would any other object. You can scale, reposition, or even rotate the sets. Now you can go back to the mesh layer and make adjustments to it if you like. And once you know the basic technique, you can choose different shapes and colors for infinite possibilities.